It's so important that there is this voice now to stepmothers. For stepmothers to be nice people completely shatters that illusion. But to hear all of these lovely, warm, beautiful people talking about their very real struggles is just, it's just lovely to hear, and really reaffirming to, as a stepmother, it's really reaffirming to hear other women talk like that.
Hello, I'm Katie Harrison, and this is Stepmum Space, the judgment-free zone where we'll talk candidly about the fairy tales and scary tales of stepmum life. So whether you've been a stepmum for years, you're just starting out, or you want to understand the stepmum in your life a little bit better, this is the place for you. My guest today, Elle, is a stepmum to a 9-year-old girl and has been in her life since she was 6 years old. Elle got in touch with me to share her story. So how did you meet your fiancé?
We met by total chance at a touch rugby tournament. I'd gone to support a friend who was playing. We met in the clubhouse and took each other's numbers, and we chatted over text for a long time before we eventually met up for a drink. I think one of the first or second things he told me straight off the bat was that he was recently separated, going through a divorce. He had a daughter who was 5 years old, and I think we fancied each other instantly, and it was sort of his way of saying, I'm not looking for anything serious. You know, there's a lot of really complicated stuff going on in my life, which was absolutely fine. For me, I was 27 at the time, not looking for anything serious at all. So we met by chance and just sort of really just got on as human beings. And neither of us, I think, were expecting to meet the person that we were going to be with. And it was a very happy coincidence, I think.
That's amazing. And then how soon did you meet your new boyfriend's daughter?
It took a full year from him and I dating more seriously to me meeting her. It took a lot of time for our relationship to become even anything serious enough to consider talking about. And there were so many things that we had to overcome in the first year of our relationship. His ex was extremely displeased to hear that he was dating. Her narrative was and remains to be to his daughter that if daddy loved you, he wouldn't have a girlfriend. He wouldn't need a girlfriend.
Like ever?
Ever. Yeah. If daddy loved you, you would be the only thing in his life.
Yikes, that's not very healthy.
His ex and his daughter have a very codependent relationship with each other, which isn't healthy, and they have no healthy boundaries. But for her view is, I'm a mother and a parent, and that's it. There is nothing else. And she feels that is the way one should be a parent. So anything that is not her daughter being the only priority is a threat.
That must have made it so difficult for his daughter to even attempt to have a positive relationship with you.
She is the loveliest little girl with quite big emotional intelligence. And she's an only child who spends all of her time with adults. And so she definitely has more understanding than we expected. Without knowing it, I think she could understand that her mum wasn't happy that he had moved on and her mum hadn't. And it felt, I think, very disloyal to his daughter to see his dad happy and her mum not with someone. So I think that narrative fed into those emotions his daughter felt. So although at the start, when she actually said, oh, I'm ready to meet Elle now, and she was really positive that first meeting and liked me a load, and then I suppose went home and told her mum and then didn't like me straight away, which was, you know, that threatened narrative of your daddy loves someone else, so that means he doesn't love you. We've not had a very fair start to our relationship, which has definitely been a challenge.
You know, as you were talking, I was thinking, do you know what, like the real sort of stepmother fairy tale or scary tale is that children meet the stepmother, actually really like her, really like this woman. Then they find out that it's not acceptable or encouraged, or the loyalty bind to their mum kicks in, and then suddenly they don't. And that is a narrative that I hear over and over and over. And it's so sad.
It is. And I think I was really naive because my partner and I have both got quite a high emotional intelligence, and we really value talking things out and trying to see things from both sides. And the first year of our relationship was really spent deep diving the end of his marriage and what had happened and why and how he could prevent that happening again. And he did a lot of work on himself. And unfortunately, our relationship inherited a huge amount from his marriage that we had to try and deal with and put pieces back together of things. I remember saying to him and thinking to myself, I'm a really nice person. I've got lots of friends. I know that I'm likable. I'm very thoughtful. I'm very empathetic. So no matter what, no matter how hard it is at the start, my personality is going to win both his daughter and his ex over. And there'll be some resistance at first, but ultimately, I want to have a happy home. I want his daughter to come and go as she pleases. I want her to feel comfortable. I really want his ex to co-parent with us so that, if she needs something last minute, she can just drop his daughter around and it won't be a problem. I had this complete naive fairy tale, and it relied on my personality bringing us through, that I'd be nice enough and likable enough and kind enough that I would make everything okay. And that is so naive of me. And I really sort of laugh to look back and think that is what I truly believed. I was going to fix things. And I couldn't.
And I think, yes, partly it does, that story, let's call it a story, it does rely on your personality. But I think a lot of women would be really happy if their ex met somebody like that who was willing to have that relationship. So your husband's first wife didn't feel like that.
No. And I think for her, the idea that there would be another woman in her daughter's life was threatening. She feels really strongly that my stepdaughter has a mother. She doesn't require a second mother. I have always subscribed to that idea that I'm not a mother or a mother figure to my stepdaughter. So it's been very important to his ex to really invalidate my existence in what is only can be described as a cruel twist of fate. Her and I share the same birthday. There's a very large age gap between us, which unfortunately really plays into the stereotype. I was called a midlife crisis. I was called, some young slut. I was called every name under the sun because I am 18 years younger than his ex and 11 years younger than my partner. But we share the exact same birth. And I remember really clearly the first year that him and I lived together. I remember going through a big effort to making sure we bought a birthday card and thoughtful birthday gifts and to make sure that my stepdaughter had something to give. And I remember thinking, I'm sure that there'll be a card will come back for me for my birthday. And I'm still waiting for that card 3 years later. My birthday will never be acknowledged. I don't exist. She's worked incredibly hard to make sure that I know that I'm not wanted, I'm not liked, that I'm not needed in this family. She weaponizes my stepdaughter to making sure that I feel really not welcomed here and not included in this new family because she doesn't have any power or control over me. And she is a person who relies on controlling her situation. I could have been anyone, truly. And my partner used to say that to me when we used to argue about these things. He'd say, it's not about you. It could be anyone. And I said, but I'm not anyone. I am me. And it's happening to me. She is attacking me. His point was, it wouldn't matter who you are, how nice you are, how hard you try. She would do this to anyone. That's a really hard pill to swallow, I think.
Yeah. And I think we always try and, as you say, empathize with other people. And I think it is really hard for biological mums when their child starts forming a bond with somebody else. I get that. The bit I don't really understand is how they can consistently try and break that for their child.
I think I see things a bit more bigger picture than his ex and think at the end of the day, the person that's being hurt the most is his daughter because she's being made to feel uncomfortable when she comes to our home because I am here. And she is not being given the permission to enjoy her time here because that is threatening to her mum. And ultimately she's now 9, my stepdaughter, putting a 9-year-old in between very adult things. The only person who is really hurt by that is my poor stepdaughter who lands up in the middle of things she has no right to be in the middle of. And that's the thing I often wish I could say to his ex is, the only person you hurt by doing this is her, because while you upset me, you don't hurt me, and this isn't long lasting for me. You have no place in my life, and your opinion of me doesn't matter. My stepdaughter and your daughter is the person who's really affected by all of this nonsense that goes on with the adults.
Yeah, and there's a couple of interesting things that you said in there that I just wanted to circle back to. Firstly, around it doesn't affect you. So are you quite resilient to her views on you and the things that she says?
I have become. I used to cry my eyes out on a Sunday night when my stepdaughter would go home, and we would wait for that text message about all the criticism of what we had done wrong. But the weekend review text that would inevitably come, and it would really upset me and hurt my feelings because I tried so hard and I cared so much, and I was trying to do everything. I got to a point where I realized I had to start setting some boundaries, because the only way to stop myself being hurt by somebody whose intention was to hurt me was to put some boundaries in. And so our home, I think, quite quickly went from being what would my stepdaughter like to do? Anything you want, any food you want, anything we can do. We wouldn't dream of making her feel upset or put out for a moment, to me saying, actually, this is my home and I'm not comfortable doing X, Y, and Z. So we're having boundaries. And if my stepdaughter goes home and tells her mum that she didn't like that she was made to go to bed at a certain time or made to have a bath, that's absolutely fine, because those are the boundaries in this house and you don't have to agree with them anymore. So I stopped myself being very hurt by stopping doing what I thought would make his ex happy, because ultimately that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to please his daughter, and I was trying to get the validation from his ex that I was doing a good job. And I realized that was never coming. No matter what I did, that wasn't going to happen. And once I'd made peace with that, I removed her power to hurt me.
That's interesting. And was your partner supportive of that?
Incredibly so. And really inward looking at himself as a dad and as a human and as a partner about what are we doing. And we had a real breakthrough moment where his ex and his daughter had more control over what we did in our home and our relationship than we did, because we were so terrified that we spent our lives being controlled by what his ex could or couldn't say. And we got to a point where we were just completely miserable, the two of us, because we couldn't make any decisions. Everything had to be passed through his ex. And we got to a point where we talked about it and had this breakthrough moment of, we are the two adults and our relationship has to come first, because if it does, everything else works. But as soon as his ex has the power to sit between us and to control him and manipulate him, then suddenly him and I are on opposite ends. We're not on the same page anymore. So as soon as we made that decision that our relationship comes first, and whether his ex chooses to manipulate what we say or not, we cannot control what she does. Every decision we make, his daughter gets, we think about her and how this affects her, and is this fair and is this right? She gets a say in everything, but his ex no longer gets a say in anything we do. She has lost her vote because she isn't reasonable or fair or kind. So it's completely with his support that we've been able to do that.
And it sounds like, the boundaries that you're talking about putting into place with his daughter, about food and tablets, are all very normal things that you would think, actually, I'm really glad that my child's in a house where she's being properly parented, regardless of sort of who it's by.
You would think so. I'm not a parent, I'm child free by choice. And so I think often when you're a stepmom without any children, you don't feel you have the ability to have an opinion on being a parent because you don't feel like a parent. But I had to sort of remove myself from that dialogue around I'm not a real parent to, well, actually, I have a degree in children and a degree in how they learn and how they grow and how their brains work, and teaching good habits like brushing your teeth properly and, eating all the food on your plate or not being offered a dessert. That isn't about being a parent necessarily. That's just about instilling good lessons for children. And I think I have to remove the parenting out of it in my head and just think this will help her in the future. Learning to make her bed and fold her clothes is a skill in life. Yeah. And she might not like it right now, but it's the right thing to do. But I don't think of myself as a parent to her. I just try and think of myself as an adult. Her mum will quite openly say, oh, my daughter is my best friend. It's a codependent relationship that they have. My stepdaughter isn't challenged to do things by herself. She has her best friend, her mum, with her.
Yeah, and I wonder how much of the things that her mother is doing are about her mother wanting to kind of hold on to something that's just the two of them that, you can't touch and her dad can't touch.
Absolutely. I think that's really important for her mum, I think. And that's the sad thing. I think that's the other thing. My stepdaughter feels responsible for how her mum feels, and feels, that if somebody isn't nice to her mum, that she must comfort her mum. She's been given a big task as a very young person. So in our home, she's a child. She's not expected to make big decisions. And I think that for her, and I imagine it must be so difficult to think in one home, I hold all this power, all this control. And then the other home, I'm a child. And, there are two adults and there's me. So I really feel for her, because I think it is really challenging to move between those two very stark environments.
And how does she handle that?
She does her best. We go through different stages of her. We've got to a place where her and I have just the most wonderful relationship, where she follows me around. She wants to do everything I'm doing. She wants to talk to me. She wants to confess things. We've been in that really healthy place before, and it swings and roundabouts. And at the moment, it's, her dad and I recently got engaged, and we have been told by her mum that she's not happy that we're engaged. And although my stepdaughter hasn't said any of this or shown any of this, the report that we got was that she thinks that her dad loves me more than her, which, when you consider the narrative for the last 3 years has been, if your dad loved you enough, he wouldn't have a girlfriend, you can almost understand why my stepdaughter might think that.
Yeah.
And so there's quite a lot of jealousy at the moment, where she, I think, would prefer for me to disappear off the face of the earth. At the moment, we're sort of trying to work on getting back to a place where she's comfortable here and I'm also comfortable. But at the moment, it isn't very comfortable, I think, for either of us. We're definitely not in the best place at the moment. And that is more than anything due to me, not her. I think I have recently decided that, I think when you are a child-free stepmom, relationships are give and take in life. Relationships with children are not give and take. They are give, 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 give. And that's quite a hard thing when you are not used to doing that. When you don't have a child, you almost have to sort of give your head a wobble. The last 3 years has just been give, 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 and I've done everything, but I've ended up feeling quite resentful. And a lot of things recently have not been thrown back in my face, I wouldn't say, but I've been challenged. And my stepdaughter has apparently said to her mum that she thinks I'm trying to be her mum, and I'm trying to replace her mum, because she sees me doing the mum things for her, like, sorting out clothes and lunchboxes and those sorts of things. And that made me feel really resentful that I try so hard and these things are not appreciated, and actually they're thrown back in my face. So I have started to put some boundaries in with my stepdaughter as well, actually, that I won't do things unless I want to do them. And I won't feel uncomfortable when my stepdaughter's here. Sometimes I'm uncomfortable because I can, my stepdaughter will, move away from me on the sofa or do things like that. And that, it can be a little bit hurtful when you think, I'm really trying here, really trying to make things work, and you're just pushing back. So I've stopped doing all of that, and I've put some boundaries in, and I've taken my guilt out of it. And I think that my stepdaughter is adjusting at the moment to our house going from being all about her and how do we make her happy to actually this home, there are 3 people who live in it and 3 people who, want to be happy and have lovely weekends together. We're definitely not in the happiest place our relationship has been, but I think once we get through these boundaries and once she understands, we'll be in a much better place. And I think this home will feel safer again, and it will feel much more that we are together as a family.
Yeah, it's interesting that you use the word safe, because I have also in the past referred to the fact that home didn't feel like my safe space, and not physically, but that kind of psychological, emotional safety where you can just be yourself and know that you're loved by the people around you and you're not judged, you're not reported back on. All of those things are painful.
They're
really
huge.
hard.
That really, and I think you've articulated that in a way I don't think I've ever been able to, but the presence of someone else making you feel unwanted and, not safe and not like you belong, when this is my only home, these are the only four walls that I have. The mental stress of that and the sort of deep anxiety that causes, it's really awful. It is definitely about us getting back to the point of feeling comfortable and safe in this home again, which, yeah, we're definitely not there, but I can embrace the fact that we're not there and we will get back there at some point. I'm so conscious of the boundaries of not overstepping, of not being where I'm not wanted or welcomed, and not trying to impose myself on my stepdaughter's life. And we have had times where she's been very close to me, and she's called me into her room one night and she's burst into tears because she needed to talk about something, but she didn't want to talk to her dad. She wanted to talk to me about it. So we've had those times of real closeness where she's, instigated and initiated. And then we've had times at the moment where there's real prickliness, I think, between the two of us. But her mother is very intent on making sure that her relationship with her daughter is protected, and it is protected by absolutely setting on fire my relationship with her daughter.
God, that's such a lot for 9-year-old shoulders to carry.
Isn't it just?
I wonder whether the issues that you're experiencing with your stepdaughter are less about how your stepdaughter feels about you and more about how she thinks her relationship with you will impact her mother.
I think that her mother has led and created everything that we are experiencing at the moment. And my stepdaughter has been manipulated into believing that I am a threat in terms of the love of her father. I think that her mum has created this, and that's the definition of a toxic person, someone who creates a problem and then asks for your help to fix it. And his ex did that. She's created, this narrative that your daddy doesn't love you enough, because if he did, he wouldn't have a girlfriend, he wouldn't move in with her, he wouldn't propose to her. And then came to my ex with a huge manipulation piece and manipulated, laid it on thick about how his daughter doesn't feel loved in our home and how I'm a threat. And she's done everything to regain the power and to regain the control. Since that happened, we've tried to arrange a summer holiday, and suddenly the dates clash and we must change our dates. Actually, he stood really firm on the boundary and said, no, we are going on holiday on these dates. We'd like her to come with. I'm not changing my dates. If you choose to take her on holiday then as well, that is your choice, but we are not changing our dates of this holiday. And those boundaries, I think, have hit her. But we cannot go on with her creating this narrative and manipulating us, and my poor stepdaughter being the affected individual who gets caught in the middle of her parents.
Yeah, it's very sad. Like, that's the word, isn't it? That this child is being made to feel like that. And I wonder, do you think her mother does it consciously, or do you think it's something in her? Yeah.
No, I don't think she even knows that she's doing it. I don't think she has the level of introspection to look within herself and think, God, what I'm doing is really dreadful. I don't think it's intentional. It's just who she is as a human. And, I've made peace with that, and I've forgiven her for being like that. I think she holds no power now. So we just let her behave how she wishes to behave.
Yeah, I mean, good for you. And I guess in time, your stepdaughter will, as I hear a lot of women say, hopefully as they get older, they'll learn to see what was going on, or they'll talk to their friends and start to piece things together.
We're praying that happens. Yeah, we're really hoping that our intention now for the next few years is to make sure that as much as we can, if we can protect my stepdaughter from being in the middle of things, that's all we can do. The fighting to try and prove that we're good people and nice people and good parents, it's just drawn her deeper and deeper into the middle. So we're, I think, sort of waving the white flag at this point, and we're hoping that as her teenage years go on and she gets older, one day we'll be able to explain to her.
Yeah. And I'm interested, you talked at the beginning about how her mum was single for a while and then she got a partner. Did anything change when she got in a relationship herself?
Yes, it did, actually. I struggle to think back on it. Things got better. Definitely they got better, because my stepdaughter is her mum's only friend. She doesn't have another friend in the world. And so when my stepdaughter was with us, her mum was sat by herself and then sending quite abusive text messages. And so I think when she got a partner, that loneliness for her was filled, and suddenly there was, someone else to occupy her time. And her partner, we've met him once or twice. He's very nice. He has children of his own. He's in a complicated divorce situation himself. And I think he at times has tried to talk her down from things. Sometimes she'll be reasonable about something that we weren't expecting her to be reasonable about. And we think that is him bringing a perspective in that she hadn't seen before. We're in a point now where I think she's trying quite hard to just get rid of us. I think she wishes we'd both just disappear off the face of the earth so that her and her new partner and his kids and my stepdaughter can sort of ride off into the sunset together and be a happy family.
And she's got no more sort of empathy for you as a stepmom, given that her partner has kids.
No, not one iota. And actually, when my stepdaughter talks about the children, the littlest one is, I think, 3. And at one point, it's not nice to laugh about this, but my stepdaughter, he's really difficult. And every time my mum goes to speak, he just screams. And I had to laugh because I thought, well, you absolutely deserve to get the worst kind of child stepmother so that you can see how bloody hard it is. She hasn't been sympathetic or grateful at all, being sort of in a stepmom role herself.
Yeah, I mean, we can but hope.
Exactly.
So you've described yourself as sort of child-free by choice, but obviously you're not really child-free because you've got a child in your life that you have to make so many decisions around. So how do you find that balance?
It's definitely one of the more challenging things for me. Most of my friends, most of them are not even in serious relationships, if I'm being honest. None of them have children. And there are things at times that, you just don't expect to have to face, like using our annual leave to make sure that there's childcare. There are real sacrifices you have to make going into a relationship with somebody who has a child when you are child-free. I'm so glad no one ever told me what they were, because I think I wouldn't have gotten into this relationship if I knew how much I would have to sacrifice. I've not found any of them difficult because I love my partner so much. I want to be at a place where she can come here and this is a second home to her, and she's happy and comfortable and content with us. I've never resented any of those sacrifices. My life has been changed completely, but for the better. I have to admit that my partner, if we didn't have the strength of relationship that we do, none of this would be possible. So it's really reaffirming to me that we've made it through all these big challenges and that we are where we are. I think anyone getting into a relationship to be a stepmom, just be aware that your relationship with your partner is the thing that is going to make you feel whole and okay again, because the challenges of being a stepmom and what you have to give up, they're huge. Ultimately, I definitely feel despite all of the challenges and the heartache, it has all been worth it. And I'm happy that I did it.
I think it's really empowering to yourself that you have said, I'm going to set these boundaries. Your partner has supported you. You're aware that it's going to make things a bit bumpy with your stepdaughter, but you're in it for the long game. And that's the best way to do it, rather than kind of carrying on the tightrope that you're doing. And then all of a sudden everything erupts and it's
so unsustainable to the 2 nights she's here on the weekends to just hide yourself away and be miserable. I hope that long term, this sets us up for a much healthier, happier relationship. When people listen to this, I hope I don't sound cruel and unkind and that I have no empathy for my stepdaughter. Really, these boundaries that are hard to swallow now, it's because I want things to be better for us in the future. And I want a future with her very much so in it.
And ultimately, you have a responsibility to her, but you've got a bigger responsibility to yourself to be mentally okay, emotionally okay, and to be in a good place yourself.
When my partner and I are at odds with each other, she's miserable. I don't think she knows how to articulate that the whole vibe in the house is off and she doesn't like it. When my partner and I are, happy and having a good time, she's much happier and much more settled when everything at home is feeling happy. And that is what I think all children really need growing up, is to see what love looks like and how love can weather good and bad. And that real love will always bring you back together no matter what.
Got like proper lump in my throat.
Oh no!
Me too, to be honest. Oh, bless you.
It's good to remember the bigger picture sometimes, actually. It's been tough recently.
Yeah, well look, sending you like all my love, and there'll be tons of people listening who'll be like trying to hug their phones at the moment. You're not alone. We know how hard it is. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. I'm really grateful for how open you've been and for sort of trusting me with your story so far. And it feels like there's going to be a chapter 2.
I think there will. Let's circle back in a year's time and see how positive things have become.
We'll do series 2, Revisiting.
That sounds great. Thank you so much, Katie. You're doing a lot of really great work for people. I think, honestly, you are. You're bringing people together in a way that we need to be able to be brought together sometimes.
Thank you. That means a lot. I'm feeling all emotional after that one. As you guys know, I'm just a normal woman who makes this podcast at home around kids, my normal life and my normal job. So it means the world that people are getting something out of it. I know for so many years I felt so isolated, so lonely, and just so blooming guilty for all these uncomfortable feelings. And I don't want other people to have to go through the same. You're all doing a brilliant job, so raising a glass of tea to you from here. Thank you so much to Elle for sharing her story. It's always hard to be so candid about the difficult stuff, particularly when you're in it. So I'm very grateful to her, and I hope that there was something that you could take away in that story. As always, if you've got a story you'd like to share, please do get in touch. You can find me at www.stepmumspace.com or on Instagram at stepmumspace. And finally, thanks for listening. If you've enjoyed this episode, please do spread the word, give us a rating or review so other women can find us, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode.